I'm gonna start this video off by making an assumption about you. I'm gonna say you've tried and failed to quit something before at least once in your life. Probably more than a couple times. We all have. Maybe you tried white knuckling something for a few days and it didn't work. Maybe you've read a little Alan Carr. Download an app or two, set a quit date that came and went by. Um, Yeah, you've most likely had the conversation with yourself at 2 a.m. where you're completely certain this is the last time, and it just wasn't. I know that place well. 3 years of waking up and reaching for something to smoke before my feet hit the floor. I know it well. I'm not going to get into the drinking here. That's its own story. That's going to be a different video. But just understand that when I say I needed this to work, I mean, I had already tried everything and failed every time. But yeah, I know a lot of you have probably tried and failed to quit either weed, nicotine, or both. And I know that that's a real killer. That's the most more addictive than heroin, actually, numbers wise. But yeah, I quit both in the same night, and I'm gonna tell you exactly how that happened. Hopefully, you can take something from it. Now, I will say, I had a couple days head start on sobriety. I was on vacation in Florida at the time, so I'd been sober for a few days from weed. I was still smoking cigarettes, but yeah, that along with not being stressed, with the tasks and chores back in my hometown, definitely made me more clear-headed and allowed more true focus. You know, take from that what you will. Less distractions while doing this method, the better. But so there I was, laying in my hotel room in Florida. During my stay, I hadn't smoked any weed for multiple days. This was longer than I could manage at home, and this granted me, like I said, clear thinking and greater motivation to want to improve myself. I was researching heavy into esoteric and sacred texts, going to, corners that most people just don't. I was desperate. Now, this method is specifically Buddhist. It's a Buddhist method used for thousands of years. It's similar to meditation. It's not exactly the same thing, though. I find this a lot more accessible. I'll get into that. But at this point, I was desperate to try anything, so I thought, why not? So, starting out, I put a lighter on the bed in front of me in my hotel room, and this practice is simple. Just pick up any object, any household object, and just spend 5 minutes looking at it. Just turn it over, look at every part of it, but just don't think about it. No judgment. That's the main thing. Just don't make any judgments about it, about the color, about how it makes you feel, No naming, no labeling, no thinking about what it is or what it does or what it means. Just look at it. It's hard to do. It's going to be a lot harder than you think it is. And for the first few minutes, you're going to think it's stupid. Why am I staring at a lighter for? But by that fourth or fifth minute of true and judgment-free observation, you will begin to notice things on this lighter. Every single small detail, things you've never noticed before. I promise, it's crazy. The things you'll see on some objects, you start doing this. And moreover, you'll appreciate every part of it as its own piece that makes up a whole. Now, once my mind was totally clear and focused on this lighter, the first thought that came into my mind intuitively was to go for a walk and have a smoke. Of course, this went obviously against the whole point of what I was trying to do in the first place. However, I felt as though this intuitive thought was placed in my mind for a reason. Here's something I think is worth thinking about before we go any further. If you think that your thoughts are truly your own, try to guess your next one before it arrives. Just take a second. Yeah, you can't do it. So, where are they coming from then? Psychologist Carl Jung called this the collective unconscious. Not your thoughts or your memories, but something underneath both of those things. Something older than either of them. It's a field every living thing draws from without knowing it. Now, I know it sounds crazy. I would have a hard time listening to myself too, trust me. But just hear me out. So I wrestled with this thought of going to have a smoke for a while, thinking I should stick to my better judgment and just, lay down, resist the urge like I always have. Despite this, I knew deep down that my quote unquote better judgment had never really helped me quit in the past. I tried resistance, but resistance kind of had a perfect record against me, so I stopped doing that. I just gave in. I took my pack of very expensive American spirits I bought on vacation, and for the first time, without any judgment against myself, I stepped out into the night for a smoke. The second I did, I knew something was different immediately. Something that had shifted. I walked out of the hotel room, and the parking lot just looked different. The lights and the pavement and sound of traffic, everything was just, I don't know, had this quality. It was like I'd only felt it at the peak of like a psychedelic trip, honestly. But no, I was completely sober. It wasn't overwhelming, just vivid and like very present. Everything had so much meaning. I knew I would remember this night for the rest of my life, no question. Um, but yeah, I'd never found it this deliberately, this quickly, or sober. Only on, like I said, psychedelics or through meditation, I'd kind of gotten there. But this was a real new experience for me. So I found a quiet spot away from everything. I sat down and I did the last thing that made any logical sense. So I lit a cigarette. In the past, I had never paid much attention to a cigarette after lighting it. Usually I just, second I light it, just forget about it, and I start worrying about or stressing about whatever's going on in my life. Just letting the cigarette, letting it smoke, hit it a couple times, forget about it. However, in this moment, I was really struck by the beauty of the fire that was eating away at the cigarette. It felt so symbolic and spiritual to me. It was just a different feeling, and in that moment, I felt a wave of disgust come over myself, and I was just realizing for the first time what it was I was truly doing to my body. The whole idea of smoking just suddenly seemed worthless and futile, and just seeing the beauty of the lit end of the cigarette brought me more joy than the feeling of nicotine ever could. I knew that, and I could see it clearly for the first time. After that, I threw the rest of the pack away, and I don't want to say I didn't think about it. Yeah, I still get urges. I'm not going to pretend like I don't. But something definitely changed in that parking lot that hasn't changed back. Was it easier because I was away from home, away from my routine and stress? Probably. That's not the point. The point is that for 5 minutes, I actually saw something for what it was instead of what I decided it was. No labels and no judgment, just pure trust in the universe and what it wanted from me. And then I couldn't unsee it. Now, that's available to you in your living room with whatever object is closest to you, tonight, if you want it.